It's Tuesday, the 16th of February 2016. My name's Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm. And this week, as always, is joining me serial entrepreneur, tech maven, programmer extraordinaire, James Woodall.
Mr. Yellow, good evening, good evening. I have a non-tech Techtasm for you.
A non-tech Techtasm? What makes it a Techtasm if it's got no tech in it?
Well, hear me out.
Okay.
Will Mark Zuckerberg bail out Kanye West? Is it real,
West, the
or is it a
star?
Techtasm?
I don't think he needs to, does he? Because he's filthy rich.
Well, not according to some potentially drunken tweets a few nights ago. I think Mr. West is known for his crazy Twitter rants.
I think he has the odd sherbet, glass of falling down water and jazz cigarette, and then goes on a Twitter rampage.
A Twitter rage?
Yes, he does, doesn't he? And then his PR company delete his tweets.
Fantastic.
Because let's face it, the good thing about Kanye is that all his tweets must come from him, because no PR would ever write it.
Yeah, they are certainly ridiculous. So, is it a Techtasm? Will Mark Zuckerberg bail out Kanye West?
Well, it's clearly some kind of comedy PR stunt, isn't it? I mean, I'm going to call this one as a total Techtasm. And I think we can give it a Techtasm, actually, James, because Kanye is very up on the tech stuff, isn't he? He's also got a music streaming service.
Yeah, Tidal.
Yes, which has had a few successes this week. I think his new album has got a 1-week exclusivity on Tidal, and I think Beyonce gave it a bit of Tidal love as well. Are they married? No, it's Kardashian he's married to, isn't it?
Yes. Well, speaking of Tidal, though, if he owns Tidal, I would expect them to have given him a 1-week exclusive on Tidal.
I know.
Maybe I'm being cynical.
You've got to have a perk of being CEO, isn't it? You've got to drive some traffic there. Anyway, let's get on with it. Will Shanklin at Gizmag reported that Google is creating a standalone VR headset. He was reporting on a Wall Street Journal article that said Google is developing a standalone VR or virtual reality headset that doesn't depend on a wired connection to a PC or console, and also doesn't have a smartphone living inside of it. Now, this is interesting because Google really have pinned their VR efforts on the Google Cardboard, which is literally a piece of cardboard that you fold into I suppose you would call it a sort of pair of goggles into which you slide your phone. Yeah, and it comes with a couple of lenses, and you can your phone, when it realizes it's in a Google Cardboard, will kind of split whatever image it's looking into two. For example, Google Cardboard content in YouTube. It kind of splits the screen in half, so you've got an image for the right eye, image for the left eye, which gives you some depth, and it uses the accelerometers in the phone. So as you move your head round, you get to experience a kind of 360 degrees kind of virtual reality experience. Now, what's interesting is that this Wall Street Journal article is suggesting that they're doing something a little bit more serious, a little bit more kind of, they describe it as kind of the middle. They say that the virtual reality is still years away from widespread adoption, but while some systems require expensive PCs, some of them, the inexpensive smartphone viewers, like the Google Cardboard itself, can give users headaches. The thing that gives you headaches is kind of latency and low-resolution imagery. Now, Google's planned standalone headset appears to aim for the middle ground, a high-quality experience, but not tethered to an expensive PC or game console. Now, James, I know you're desperate to talk to me about this because you are a wearable systems maven guru, and you've worked in this industry, actually, not perhaps the VR industry, but certainly the headgear and wearables industry. So I know you're going to have an opinion, but I'm just going to give our listeners a little bit more salt on their bangers and mash before you plunge in with your fork. Now, there are 4 systems really vying for virtual reality dominance this year, because 2016 is going to be the big year of virtual reality. Now, those 4 systems, and I hope I can remember them all, and if I can't, I'll edit it out, are, and I'm going to start at the top, the HTC Vive, which is an expensive headset system. It's wired to a desktop system. It has some headgear with a front-facing camera on it, and can allow you, especially designed with a hand control as you hold a sort of a games controller in each hand, which is registered in 3D space through an external camera, and you can move around in your living room. And because the system itself scans the room in real time, as you approach a wall, that wall you're in a virtual world with your goggles on, but an image of your wall taken from the front-facing camera kind of hoves into view as you come near the wall, a bit like the Star Trek holodeck. So a very high-end system. No price announced. Coming to market in the next couple of months. Second system, Oculus Rift. Much more of a sit-down experience. So you're wired in, you can move around, but there's no sense of the external environment. There is an external camera on it, which is used for head tracking. So head tracking is done much more accurately with white dots that are placed onto the headset, and this is tracked by an external camera, but very much a sit-down experience. And the third system I want to tell you about is the one which may get the fastest adoption. This is the Project Morpheus or PlayStation VR headset, which plugs into your PlayStation. You plug it into your PlayStation, it's designed just for gaming, nothing else. And is likely to be much, much cheaper than the other systems. The other systems require a high-spec external PC. The Oculus PC is $1,500, or the Oculus system is $1,500, including a headset at about $600, $599, and then a $900 plus gaming rig to actually drive it. The PlayStation, if you've got a PlayStation, you just buy the headset, so it's going to be cheaper, less barrier to adoption. And the fourth system, which I'm just going to kind of throw in, is the Gear VR from Samsung, which, again, is like a super-duper version of Google Cardboard, which we talked about earlier, where you put a Samsung Galaxy S6 in the end of a specially designed plastic headset, and it's kind of optimized. The experience is optimized, but obviously you don't get the 3D sound, and you don't get such high quality and high-res images, and you certainly don't get the compute power required to play a game. Pause for breath, James. What's going on in VR?
I've certainly seen some impressive headsets over the years. I remember maybe 2 years ago in my day job seeing this system where the screens were 2,000 by 2,000 pixels per eye. It was mesmerizing, fantastic. But even that got me a bit dizzy. So, I mean, hey, it's a really exciting technology. I'm not a fan, I'll be honest.
But is this year going to be the breakout year for VR?
That reminds me of the question, is this the year of the Linux desktop? Which every year is the year of the Linux desktop. Year. Is this the year for VR? I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say no because this year is the breakout year for VR. Next year will be the year for VR.
Okay.
And we see this with every piece of technology going. You get a couple of early adopters. You then get the big boys playing with one or two devices. But I think, as with most things, Generation 2 is where you're going to get the serious adoption. $1,500 is way above the price bracket for your average consumer. And it's the average consumer that's going to dictate whether this is a thing or not a thing.
Well, since we're in the playground, let's talk about the big boys. Microsoft have a system called HoloLens, which they call, which is an augmented reality system. They call it mixed reality, but the goggles themselves do not completely immerse you in the 3D world or the 3D video. Mm-hmm. They're actually see-through, but they project over the top of your physical environment, say a desk in front of you or the floor in front of you, VR animations and 3D models. Now, they are pitching this completely at business, not at entertainment. There's no entertainment is intended from this system. It's designed to help you design motorcycles. It's there to help you pick your next Volvo. They have a partnership with Volvo.
Despite the Minecraft.
Well, correct. And that's a very good point, because that's the demo that they showed was of a Minecraft world as seen through the eyes of the Hololens, which was very impressive. Now, I have seen the Hololens demo, and it is tremendously impressive, especially considered it is not a wired or tethered system. It just sits free on the top of your head and will work for about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours, which is incredible considering the amount of computing that's actually going on inside it. So, doesn't all have to be for entertainment. But my belief, my understanding is, and I agree with you, I think 2016 is going to be the breakout year. My understanding is the thing that makes you sick is the latency. It's all about the latency. And my understanding is these latest systems, especially the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, have solved this problem completely. And you get zero sickness, motion sickness at all. Mm-hmm. And apparently, I think the key thing wasn't just the latency, it was also the 3D sound. Your brain is an incredibly clever thing, something that humans will never understand fully, because if they do, we'll all disappear in a puff of logic, to quote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I would say that if what you're seeing doesn't match up to the sound that you're hearing, you just get confused, and the queasiness is caused by something doesn't compute. And I think they've worked that out now, which is why I think it's going to be the breakout year. The question is, and I'm going to call this one, I'm going to start to ask you, I'm going to start to nail you down, James, on this one. Is I'm defining it being real as whether it breaks out this year and sticks, not whether it breaks out this year, because I think that's inevitable that it's going to break out this year. The question is it going to stick? You're going to need to call it now, and we're going to come back to it later in the year.
I think it's a real. Based on that criteria, if it breaks out and sticks, absolutely.
Is it going to stick? Is it going to stick?
Yes. It definitely will. It definitely will, especially if Sony are doing it, because the PlayStation 4 is the winner of the current generation of consoles. I'm not sure how many million units they've sold, but hey, if they can get a percentage of those, then that will make this particular industry. So
could be for that reason alone. Can I throw in a word of caution? Do you remember the PlayStation Move?
Yes.
These are the sort of hand controllers that with a glowing sort of sphere on top, which changed color, which is tracked by a camera.
It was a take on the Wii, wasn't it? I mean, it was their answer to the Wii.
Complete and utter flop and failure. Total failure it was. So it's not, while most things that Sony do in home entertainment is excellent, they have had failure. So word of caution there. Okay, so you're calling it real?
I definitely am. I agree the Move was a fail, but I think Sony are leading the way in this rather than following. They and the others, certainly Facebook behind the Rift, HTC a pretty big company as well. Yeah, I think there's enough people behind this to really push this out. So definitely a real. It will stick, and we'll see a lot more exciting things coming into next year.
Okay, we're 1 for 1 on real. I'm going to go 2 for 2 on real. So we're calling it real. You heard it first. Roger Fingas at Apple Insider reported that the iPhone 7 might replace the 3.5mm headphone jack with a second speaker, according to analysts and obviously insiders, because Apple's policy isn't to give any of this information away. But the rumor mill always starts early, and since there's an announcement coming up in March, I think on March the 20th, is it? Something around the iPhone 5 SE, the rumors have already started about the iPhone 7. Anyway, they're expected to abandon the 3.5mm headphone jack and probably replace with a second speaker. Now, where would you get your sound from, James?
Well, it's been a rumour for a while that the Lightning connector will replace the headphone jack.
But don't you use that for powering the thing up?
Yeah, you do. But if you think about the new MacBook with the USB-C, which is both a charging point and a USB port, so it's in and out, I'm gonna kind of throw it out there that it wouldn't surprise me to find some kind of two-way adapter where there's a charger with a small jack on the side, or what about moving towards Bluetooth headphones as more of a real thing? I certainly am a proud owner of some Beats wireless Bluetooth headphones, which of course are Apple now since they acquired Beats. So perhaps that's the way forward. But regarding the second speaker, I have always thought, and as a long-time iPhone user, it does lack a second speaker. It does seem a little bit of a strange thing to skip out. So I'm kind of in two minds. Hey, it's great they've got the speaker, but do I really want to be buying a new set of headphones?
Okay, so here's my question. Going back to the MacBook, which has just got the USB Type-C, which for those of you listeners who don't know, that's a USB cable that can go in either way up, very much like the Apple Lightning connector. And with a MacBook, of course, if you want to power it and listen to audio or have video coming out, you have to buy an adapter. Now, that's fine if you've got a laptop, but that's not so good if you're doing it with your phone. You certainly don't want to be carrying around external port expanders for your phone just so you can listen to your tunes. But I do understand why they're kind of interested in this. Johnny Ives, of course, would like to remove the complexity out of everything he touches or sees, and of course the 3.5 millimeter jack is a throwback to an earlier time. And of course, probably actually, what is the iPhone 7 millimeters thick? It's probably constraining making the phone any thinner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Lightning connector is certainly thin. It wouldn't be the first time though that Apple have released or required a special adapter. And remember the first iPhone, the headphone jack was recessed slightly and some headphones wouldn't fit in. So manufacturers created these extra adapters. So, hey, I'm sure they're not doing it for that reason as a throwback. But
and of course there's no problem with having a Lightning to 3.5 millimeter adapter hanging out the bottom of a phone. It just it would destroy the beauty of the phone to have an adapter, I think, for the experience. And of course, great for Apple because it gets to sell Lightning headphones or, as you say, Bluetooth in-ear buds.
Yeah, of course, but there is all the argument for the Lightning headphones mean that they can certainly be better quality because, of course, the 3.5 millimeter technology, I don't know how old it is, but it's certainly 10, 20 years old.
2,000 years.
Exactly. So it certainly wouldn't be surprising for Apple to want to reinvent that because, why send one stream of audio down when you can, split them out to different channels and so forth? I think that's certainly an interesting way forward and possibly a selling point that they'll use. Whether your average user will notice that, I don't know. But
in this Apple Insider article, it's got lovely rendering of the top of the iPhone without the 3.5 millimeter jack. So I can hardly tell the difference. But I suppose if it ain't broke, let's fix it anyway, being the motto of Sir Johnny Ives, the design king at Apple. I can kind of believe this one, but like every Apple story, they do not pre-release. They don't tell you what's coming up. You have to wait. And it's all about the speculation.
Yeah,
so I'm going to call it a Techtasm because I can't call it real because there's nothing that's come officially from the company to say it's real. It's just total speculation.
Yes, definitely. But let's revisit this in March the 20th or whenever it is, and just to see if it ended up being a real rather than a Techtasm.
Do we have to? Oh, Apple stories.
You love it, really.
Oh, please, let's move on. This week, Amazon announced a new game engine called Lumberyard. Now, Lumberyard is based on their acquisition of the Cry engine, which is a 3D games engine, and they are giving it away. They're giving it away completely free for developers to use. They obviously want to create an ecosystem of games which run on their cloud services, which is where they make their money. And I think there is another service as being launched at the same time as Lumberyard, which allows monetization subscriptions, multiplayer as well. So you can create your Lumberyard game as a standalone, but really to get the value out of it, you need to have it on a multiplayer system, and that's what they're charging for. Mm-hmm. However, there is a caveat. In the terms and conditions, Amazon, I kid you not, and I'm getting this from Sam Byford on The Verge, so you know you can trust it. In the terms and conditions, it says, and I quote, however, so they say you can use it for free. However, this restriction will not apply in the event of the occurrence certified by the United States Centre for Disease Control or successor body of a widespread viral infection transmitted via bites or contact with bodily fluids that causes human corpses to reanimate and seek to consume living human flesh, blood, brain or nerve tissue, and is likely to result in the fall of organized civilization.
Serious stuff.
They're calling for in the event of a zombie apocalypse, all bets are off.
I think that's a fair assumption, really. So I can imagine in the event of a zombie apocalypse, having any kind of organization might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, but what about putting that in terms and conditions? What are they thinking? Are they a serious company or are they a joke?
Are they a serious company? I have to say I quite enjoy these terms. Was it April Fool's a couple of years ago when GameStop announced that they will own your soul if you made a purchase? And I think they did it primarily to highlight the fact that nobody ever reads the terms and conditions. But yes, it's been known. It's certainly been known before. Hey, look, it's nice to have a bit of humour. And to be fair, referencing our intro with Kanye West and the publicity stunt, could this in fact be a publicity stunt? Because would Amazon's Lumberyard got as much attention if it didn't have this particular very serious clause?
Well, I think they know their audience, and they're an audience of gamers who are going to obviously be very tickled by that. And of course, it did make a lot of the tech press picked up on that clause, but they're absolutely serious about Lumberyard. I think Crytek, the company that owned the CryEngine 3D games environment, and just to be clear, this is a AAA, proper professional 3D games development environment. A lot of games, including Crysis, were written to use the Crytek engine. So it's a serious bit of software, and apparently the software itself is relatively easy to use. It's certainly, everyone's engaged. The three major games engines are competing to carve out the market to themselves, and this is Amazon's attempt to do it, I think, with a little bit of humor, but while at the same time recognizing that the future of gaming is about the onlining, and they want to sew that up. The other two game environments, of course, are Unity and what's the other one? Help me out here, James. This is a big test.
The Unreal Engine,
the Unreal Engine,
the Source Engine. I mean, there's quite a lot of engines. I think this also. I don't know if any of the tech news has picked up on this. It's a slight catch up as well, because Microsoft has been offering Azure to Xbox One developers, well, since the Xbox One appeared, to help boost things like AI calculations and those types of things. So Amazon are tapping into the market that developers are already familiar with, and of course Amazon and Microsoft compete quite a bit on the cloud front. So it was an obvious place for them to go into because, well, up until then, Microsoft had the market pretty well tapped up.
Well, of course, Amazon recently bought Twitch for a unicorn or two, and for our listeners, a unicorn is $1 billion. So they'd already signaled that they were serious about this, and certainly serious about getting into the gaming area. But when I suppose, if you look at AWS, that's Amazon Web Services, that's a $20 billion business on its own. Where do you go from 20 billion? Well, you just keep going until you hit, a triple-decker horn, which is 3 unicorns. And they've just got to keep going. Has been Jeff Bezos's, the CEO of Amazon. That's been his philosophy, is just to keep consuming, growing and growing like a shark moving through the water, never stopping. Keep going until you reach world domination. And they are super serious about the businesses that they go into.
Yes.
And when they say it's free, subject to the zombie apocalypse, they mean it. And they very rarely backtrack on promises that they've made. They don't have to readjust their business model because they've got enough cash not to have to worry about that same thing. But I guess you could apply the same argument, couldn't you, to Facebook and Google?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not bad for a bookshop. I mean,
it's not bad at all. Well, it's a kind of ancillary story, but there was news a couple of weeks ago about them of actually opening hundreds of bookstores in the United States as well. The irony upon irony, after putting Borders out of business, they've moved into the brick and mortar trade again. I mean, those shops themselves will probably be, I guess, places to pick up your Amazon orders, places to browse and look, but not to necessarily buy. And maybe it'll in fact just be a showroom with just point of sale to Amazon.com. But interesting that they're going back to it.
No, absolutely. Amazon, great company. It's an obvious place for them to get into. It's obvious today. I mean, I think 2 years ago we would have been scratching our heads at them getting into game engines. But hey, it all kind of makes sense, and really exciting time for them.
Amazon, amazing. We love Amazon. So is it real? Is this thing going to stick? Or is it just another Jeff Bezos Techtasm?
Absolutely, it will stick. Developers love free. Will the zombie apocalypse cause disorganized chaos? I think that's definitely real. Calling
it a double reel, including the zombies.
Double reel.
Can't argue with that. That's about it for today. Remember, you can find us at facebook.com/Techtasm. You can subscribe on iTunes or Feedburner, SoundCloud or Stitcher, whatever your podcasting platform of choice is. And we'll be getting our YouTube channel running this week as well, so just search for us, Techtasm, on YouTube. You can contact us at feedback@techtasm.com. And if you're subscribed to iTunes, please leave us a review and give us as many stars as you possibly can. This is how we get noticed, by the number of stars you give us. Now, we record every Tuesday at 2100 BST GMT, so watch out for more coming soon. This is me, Robin Yellow.
And me, James Woodall.
Saying, is it real or is it a Techtasm?